What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 4 of Midwest Mondays. We're going to talk about the meta today. Yes, the current state of the meta and whether or not we predicted it right. Spoiler alert, we pretty much did. There's a lot of Brave token. So, Cody Manabe won a PS5 last weekend, and I placed top 8 at that double case tournament in Philadelphia this weekend. And then next weekend is going to be the remote YCS, so I'm excited to see what the YCS is, but I think we have a pretty good idea of how the meta is shaping out for the most part. So at this case tournament, I'll talk about that for the most part because I was there, not in Arizona. In Philadelphia, Unmatched Gaming, Christian Urena opened a new store. It's about an hour north of Philly. And the top 16 were, I believe, 12 decks with the Brave engine. 2 Prank Kids, 1 VW, 1 PK, 4 Sword Soul variants, and then 2 more piles. So that's 2 Prank, 2 piles, VW, PK, Sword Soul. That's 10. So that's 10. That's 10 of the top 16. There were 2 Eldritch that I think at least one of them also played the Brave cards, but we don't have lists for that yet, so we're still waiting on that. The rest of the top 16 was Drytron, DDD, Infernoble, and Flaunderies. I know DDD didn't play Brave, Flunder did not play Brave, Drytron, that was Shu. Shu got top 4. He did not play Brave. I assume the Infernoble deck did not play the Brave engine, but I'm not quite sure. I don't have that list either. So a lot of Brave token decks, whether it's in the Prank Kids or the piles. The Sword Soul is basically a variation of the pile deck, right? Like, they do a lot of the same things. They have the 10 Ys that get them with the Red Rose, and they do the Synchro plays into Baron. They do Hulk plays Auroradon. Some of the pile decks play the Auroradon combo, some don't. The one that I played did not play Auroradon, and part of this podcast is going to be my deck profile. So, look forward to that. We're going to talk about the Unmatched case tournament. We're going to talk about the 3v3 in Baltimore. That was the next day. And then we're going to have my deck profile, and we're going to have some thoughts about what's going to win YCS Vegas. So here is Shu's Drytron deck that he plays top 4 with at Philly. Alright, this is Shu's Drytron deck that he made top 4 with at the Unmatched Gaming Double Case Tournament. He had 1 loss in Swiss, then he won in top 16 and top 8. They split top 4, so he didn't lose in top 4, they just split. So it's a bit different than what we've been expecting from Drytron, and he actually did a deck profile that's like an hour long on his YouTube channel. I'm going to link it in the description. Very, very well explained. It's pretty thorough, pretty in-depth, and he talks about some combos in the end too. Talks about some of his matchups. So definitely worth checking out if you have interest in this deck, because he goes over everything. Some of the highlights are main deck Goes and Match and Token Collector. I'll put that down here because that's where they go. Both can be sent off Beatrice, and because of Auroradon, you can add Goes and back to your hand. So all the Drytrons are machines, and he plays Barricade Board Blocker as well. So his combo is he does the Drytron plays. If he starts with pre-prep, you can just open Herald and then do the Drytron plays. So then you have Herald negates along with a Floodgate. So he opted to not do Scythe DPE like a lot of Drytron is doing right now, and instead went for the Link into Auroradon tribute the tokens, grab the Gozen match, set a floodgate, because Gozen match is probably one of the better ones. And then he sided some other ones too. He sided Royal Decree. He sided 2 more Gozens. Yeah, and then just main decking outs to Scythe, Forbidden Droplet. He is playing 1 Herald without the Ava, Called by the Grave. His logic was that, I believe if I recall correctly, you need cards to go second against Scythe. Herald is kind of one of them. Droplets and Called by are the only 5 cards that you can draw going second that like stop Scythe inherently. He did say that this is the reason, Scythe is the reason that he played Draconids. So like he mentioned that if he wasn't playing a Scythe deck, he was siding that card out, which makes sense because it is the most powerful in-engine card that deals with getting Scythed, because you can just clear all of your opponent's special summon monsters as long as it's not PK that also has a Fog Blade. Then you're kind of cooked. But yeah, no, it's a really interesting deck. Go check out his deck profile. It's interesting. He goes super detailed into it. It's definitely worth watching, especially if you have any interest in playing Drytron for the upcoming YCS. Alright, here we have Avery Foster's Brave Pile. Avery almost made it into top 16. He and Pack played in the last round, and he was just short on time to get to the battle phase in game 3. So unfortunately, he couldn't take it. I do believe if time was not a factor, he would have won. But as it stands, Pack ended up winning the match. But his deck is really interesting, and it's very different from mine. So right off the bat, the one that I played was not playing Illusion of Chaos or Prep or Magician's Soul. So that's what, 8 cards that are different from mine. So he was much less focused on the level 3 engine and more focused on getting to Auroradon and digging into the deck for I'm not sure what, just more extenders, maybe digging for Fusion Destiny so he didn't have to make Verte, drop at Super Poly for follow-up if he was going first. He does the Auroradon combo, which I also don't play, so I'm not playing Deskbot either. But the end goal is always the same. You're trying to get to Dag to Scythe, and this deck just goes about it a little bit differently. He's playing Cupid Pitch, which I was not. So I also was not playing Super Poly. He talked about how bad Super Poly was too all day. Like everybody and their mother was playing around Super Poly, and the decks that have more trouble playing around Super Poly just ended up not being very good. Like there was one PK deck in top 16. People have just kind of come to the consensus that Phantom Knight is not as good as it needs to be to win a tournament like this. So Super Poly ended up being very bad, he said, and he was kind of sad that he played it. It was really good against the DDD deck, but it did not see much success elsewhere because people were either popping their Verte to not leave 2 darks on field, or they were doing the double Scythe play where you pop DPE Scythe, trigger DPE, and then in the standby phase, the first thing you do is Baron target the Scythe to summon it back. And then, if that gets stopped, your DPE comes back and it pops the Dagda to summon the Scythe again. Both of those plays do not get stopped by Super Poly. So, we think Super Poly is probably a mistake. But it's all going to depend on what kind of decks you play against in Vegas, right? If you play 8 PK decks, you're maybe going to wish Super Poly was in your deck. But if you're playing 8 PK decks, you're probably playing 8 bad decks. So there's that. He also wasn't playing any hand traps, so that's the other key difference. He said, why would I want to hand trap you when I just want to draw my Droplet Super Poly? Or just kind of play through a Scythe board with the Griffin cards. Because even if you get Scythed, like if you get Scythed at a point where Droplet isn't going to stop it because they have a way to Scythe again, then what you do, and he was doing this to me a lot. So I was scything him with my Baron, and he was letting it resolve. And then he was normal summoning a monster while I had Arclight, and then Forbidden Dropleting, so he could negate the rest of my board. Sure, he couldn't summon from the extra deck, but like picks apart a board pretty well because of the equip spell. So like, depending on his hand, if he opened like Droplet plus Right, it wasn't always the worst thing in the world, because you could token Griffin, clear my negates, and field spell or equip spell the DPE. So you're leaving me on, I better have follow up that's good, otherwise he's gonna kill me next turn. So it's really interesting that like you don't auto lose when you're going second into Scythe with certain decks. He was doing it in pranks too. He dropleted my remaining negates after I Scythed him, did the Right, and then Monster Reborn my Yazi. That was just an anomaly. He was playing a 60-card prank deck at one point, and he drew his Monster Reborn for my Yazi, which was like his only win condition to pick apart the rest of my board. I was sick. But yeah, so he opted to not even side hand traps. He was just all board breakers. Lava Golem, Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm, Cosmic Twin. Because we've found also that some people aren't scything in the standby phase. If you don't have the double scythe, if you only have DPE scythe and you don't have the Baron to do it twice, a lot of people are holding it. So they'll wait until you commit something so then they can DPE pop the scythe and something on your board, which means that they lose to Lava Golem and Dark Ruler. The problem is you don't know what your opponent is going to do for the most part. So siding in Lava Golem and Dark Ruler when they do the double scythe in the standby plays, you have 6 dead cards in your deck. And then not siding them in when they do hold it means you could have had more outs to the scythe than you did, and you're like not giving yourself the best chance at winning the game. So it's tough. It's tough. But those cards were in his side deck, and I think there were a lot more people playing Dark Ruler than I expected at the tournament, so that was surprising to me. I don't have any combo videos for this, and I'm sorry. I did not play this version of the deck, and I do not know the intricacies as well as I do my version. But coming up next is my deck profile.
What's up, YouTube? Avery from Midwest Gaming here with
Brian Kalina. We topped a double case tournament just outside of Philly. Christian Arena opened a store, Unmatched Gaming, and they did a free double case, and I got top 8.
Yep.
With a pile.
A pile?
With a pile. Yep.
Alrighty.
I'm in Baltimore right now. I just finished a 3v3.
How'd you do?
I did. I went undefeated in the 3v3. My partners collectively did not win a match. Shout outs to Avery Foster and Patrick Homan, but that's okay.
Oh, we name dropped. All right, let's get to it.
I played the pile deck with the Sangan. So 3 Sangan, Search Arborea. Then the level 3s, 3 Wielder, 3 Tracker, out of order, 3 E-Tally. Yeah, Cherubini, Hulk, dot deck, essentially. I also played triple Junk Forward. Found myself siding this card out a lot and 2 of these out a lot if I'm going second. I don't know if it was correct, but it's what I did, and it seemed to work okay. Played the Brave Engine, triple Enchantress, 1 Griffin, triple Right, 1 Adventure, 1 Draco back. People are talking about increasing these numbers, maybe playing 2 Griffin, 2 Adventure. I'm already playing 50 cards. I did 0 testing for this at all. My team came up with a list and I played it and it worked. So maybe there's something to playing like the Griffin or more adventures, or adding the Illusion of Chaos and the Magician Soul engine with preps. But I haven't had a chance to figure out what's better or not. So we'll see. And then for the rest of the engine, the Red Rose stuff, just because Brave Engine plus Red Rose is full combo. Because you play the Rox Rose and the Basil Shoot, And then I played 3 hand traps, 3 Ash, 3 Ogre, 3 Bell, the level 3s. If I thought Effect Veiler was like really good right now, I might play the Ghost Sister that's basically an Effect Veiler. But I only have 10 slots left, and I think every card in this deck is good. So I'm not sure. For some Pseudo Bricks, Edge Imp, Snow, Scythe, Celestial Dasher, because we're playing the DP engine. You can still play with these cards in your hand. You can still do the combo. The one you can't is Mare. So you have to have like a really specific hand to play with Mare, because the only way to put it back, since we're not playing Illusion of Chaos, is Edge Imp, right? So you have to have like Sangan and an extender, a level 3 extender, so like E-Tally Tracker, Junk Forward, along with the Brave engine, because that way you're sending this off of Cherubini, and then you put the Mare back with this, and then you can keep going, but that kind of like clogs your board too, and it's really weird, because usually if you're opening Sangan plus an extender, you're using Cherubini to send the Enchantress. So if you just open all the good cards, then yeah, you can put the Mare back, because you can afford to send this with Cherubini. Otherwise, you're just kind of stuck with this in hand, and you have to do a different line, which I'll talk about when I get to the extra deck. That's it for the monster count and the spells that go with the monsters. For otherwise, we just do 3 Droplet, and then Foolish Infusion Destiny. This is just an extra way to get to the Brave engine, or Edge Imp, or I can just send Snow if I have the rest of the combo in my hand, because Snow only comes up on your first combo if you already draw like the Mare and don't have a way to put it back. So like the only way I'm ever going, and this kind of leads into the extra deck, the combo, the only way I'm going Riser instead of Yazi when I make my Synchro 7 turn 1 is if I drew the Mare. So Riser sends Snow is an option if you need to, because you have Mare in hand and can't put it back. Otherwise, I don't know, this is probably like the most cuttable card in the deck. It just didn't do a lot for me this weekend. God damn it. For the Link 1s, we did Spider, Almirage, just because Almirage makes Sangan a 1-card combo into Hulk because of Arborea. And then Hulk, Dagda, Cherubini. For the access code package, and like the Link Climb and board breaking package, just do Phoenix Unicorn access. This is probably the 15th card in the extra deck, if there's other stuff you want to play. A second Hulk barely came up for me this weekend, but there was one time it would have been nice. Like I would have won that turn, but instead I won 2 turns later because he dead drew twice in a row. So if he hadn't drawn dead, I would have lost because I didn't have the second Hulk. I think keeping Unicorn is still correct, because it's the Link 3 to go into access code for 53, and a lot of times that's how you push for a game on your second turn. And even without Phoenix, this just comes up a lot. So I would keep these 2, maybe cut this one for a second Hulk or something else that's better. And then we play the Verte for the DPE. Only 1 Fusion Destiny. My Verte only got negated once, and it lived. The one time my Verte got negated, it lived until the next turn, and I was very sad I didn't have a second Fusion Destiny. But I don't think 1 Fusion Destiny is incorrect. Because if you're going first and you're getting to Verte, it's just like almost always resolving. For the Synchro 7s, we did the Riser and the Yazi, and then Baron, Arclight, Savage. So the cool play is like when you draw the Mare and you have to do Riser send Snow, Riser becomes a level 3, which means when you summon Scythe, you can then in the main phase Synchro with this and Scythe into Savage, just to have an extra negate. As if Scythe isn't enough, right? But that does help if the Scythe gets like dropleted and they don't also droplet the Riser. And if they droplet the Riser, that's another card they've committed to stopping your board, and that's less cards they have to play with. So it serves the same purpose, right? It trades a card for a card, just maybe you don't get to choose which one. But yeah, the combo ends on Baron, Arclight, and Dagda and Vertan field. Because in your end phase, you pop your DPE and your Scythe. Baron, summon the Scythe. If that gets stopped, DPE comes back. DPE, pop Scythe, Dagda. And they can't droplet you with monsters because of this. So if they do have droplet, this can always negate droplet in that standby phase because they don't have a monster on board, unless they draw phase E-Telly. If they draw phase E-Telly to play around this so they can droplet monster, then they're just better than you, I guess.
So you still beat droplet at that point, though. They'd have to have that and another negation.
So, you'd still have to have another negate after that, because
the DPE
is still going to hit the Scythe when it comes back after the Baron resolves.
So it's like,
there's no combination of cards. There's no like one card that just outs this board that stops you from getting Scythe with this board.
Yeah, it's like in that instance, it's E-Telly, droplet, another negation, and they have to be able to play the game after that
So.
with like you having a board and a DPE and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
This pile deck is really cool. I'm a big fan. Shout out to Cody Manavi. He won a PlayStation 5 the weekend before this with a pile. It's almost card for card his list. It's very close. So I don't build my decks, I just play them. My side deck, this card is trash. I don't know. It just wasn't good at all. Maybe there's a world where it becomes good, but the current format, one crow just doesn't do enough to like justify not playing other cards. For the rest of it, it's 2 token collector. There was a lot of Sword Soul versions, Soul Sword variety at the tournament, so this card was insane. Then Triple Lancia, and then the rest is just back row. I wasn't sure how many trap decks we were going to see. Maybe this card could come out for something else, but the card I want to play is evenly matched because my 2 losses this weekend were both to Prank Kids. I lost to 1 Prank Kids in Swiss and 1 Prank Kids in top 8 of the double case tournament, and there was just so much. Like, I didn't open any hand traps or droplets game 3 when I had lost the roll both times. So I lost the roll, going second game 3, didn't open any hand traps or board breakers. So it's not like super hard to bait the Griffin, right? Because how often are they going to let right resolve, or like at some point if I'm playing, they're just going to have to Griffin negate. So it's not the hardest card in the world to bait. And then if I have evenly in my hand, they have the token and everything else goes. It doesn't matter what they do. So it's just a card I want to play, but then I'm committing 6 cards that get shut off by this, the Lancia. So I'm not really sure if evenly is correct, but there's got to be something else that's just better against Prank Kids. Because even like this stuff, like the shotgunning the Twins and Cosmics in the standby phase when they can't chain the Pandemonium, you still have to have another card that can negate the Griffin. Because like, if I'm a Prank Kid player, I'm negating this with Griffin, right? Because I want to have like a Battle Butler against the pile decks. Because like it's really hard to push through 2 Battle Butlers when you're going second. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for going second against Pranks, but I didn't lose a game going first all weekend. Not once. I got hand trapped 3 times. They didn't kill me. So next turn I just did it all again. Like, it's just, this deck is like kind of insane. I think it's the best way to do the whole like Dagda Scythe. Like every deck's end game for the most part is Dagda Scythe. You're trying to Scythe lock them. And I just feel like at the moment this is the best way to do it. It just worked really well, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Awesome. Any shout outs you haven't given yet?
Yeah, I always forget to do this at the beginning of the video, and so now people stop watching so they don't hear them, but that's okay. Shout outs to TGG Gaming, Rising Star, Metamats, DB Grinder. Shout out to Shu. His Drytron deck profile is already on YouTube. He got top 4 at the case tournament. He's just goes in matching everybody turn 1 because of the Erodon combo and Drytron. It was pretty sick. Shout out to my cat Izzy, and I think that's it.
Alrighty. Thank y'all for tuning in. It's Midwest Gaming. Heading out.
Alright, so that was my deck profile. This is the dueling book list. If you recall, I made some changes to the 3v3, so Not going to do any combos with this one yet. Most people kind of know what's going on. And Cody, shout out to Cody, by the way. I didn't do anything in this list. As you all may remember from many of my other tops, I don't really create my combo lists. I just let other people do it for me, and then I bring them to events, and sometimes I do some winning, and it's really cool. So huge shout out to Cody for coming up with this list. But my changes to the 3v3, I think Crow is not great. So I put in triple tactics because I think going first, if they hand trap you once and you can wreck the second hand trap, you're almost never going to lose. I'm not quite sure why I decided to make this change, because the whole weekend I did not lose a single game where I went first, regardless of how many times I got hand trapped. The games I was losing were always going second. And I didn't lose every game I went second because I didn't win every roll, right? But yeah, I only lost when I was going second. But I think the theory is kind of there. I do like tactics. Like the hand traps that are being played right now are insanely high compared to last format in most decks, I believe. So I think tactics is probably going to be good again. Unsure, but yeah. So this is the list I played for the 3v3. I went 2-0 in the 3v3. My teammates collectively went 0-4. So unfortunately, we did not do very well. But another member of Midwest Gaming did do very well. Daniel Shogun's team got top 4, and they split top 4. And he played, let's see, where is he? The Sword Soul pile. So he had some Sword Soul cards. He had the Illusion of Chaos cards. The Despot Auroradon stuff, because the Auroradon can summon a worm from deck. And so that's kind of the vibe with this. They do no Cherubini plays, right? Because they don't have the level 3 extenders. They just do the Tenyi and Red Rose, or Tenyi Hulk, right? So you can summon the Red Rose off the Hulk, synchro it with one of the Tenyis, and then you get the Baron, and then you trigger the Red Rose for the rocks and the Basil, and you keep going. And you play Magician's Souls to be able to get there. And the Brave Engine, it means that you can leave the Griffin on field because you're not synchroing with it, which I think is kind of cool. I do kind of like that. But you're playing Sword Soul cards, and I think Sword Soul cards are not very good to draw, to have in your hand. I don't know. If I'm playing a deck, I don't want to draw these Sword Soul cards. But I played a 50-card pile with a lot of bricks, so I can't really talk. So, yeah, this is just another way to get to the pile. And I do like Blackout right now. I think Blackout is insanely strong going first against pile decks. Same with the Battle Butler. So, it's really hard for these pile decks to play second through, Battle Butler, especially twice, and Blackout. You have to be able to see so many extenders that it's kind of tough to be able to play like that. So that's one thing I do like about this deck a lot. And of course, the going second cards, you have 3 droplets, some hand traps, just 3 Ogre, 3 Ash. And the Tenyis are good going second. Because if you can get the adventure token on field before they know you're playing Tenyi, I don't know. I feel like if you open right Vishuda, you can kind of play through Scythe, maybe, depending on what the rest of your cards are in your hand. And if you're playing a deck that doesn't Scythe you, you can definitely play through their board with the Tenyis. The Tenyis are really good if you don't get Scythed when you're going second. So I do enjoy that part of it. His teammate were playing other interesting decks. So Anthony was playing Virtual World, Brave, Sword Soul. Yeah, kind of, the Sword Soul. So there's just one Sword Soul card, the Tai. And then the rest is just the Virtual World Brave deck. I do enjoy the idea behind this. I think Virtual World has the potential to be very good this format going first. I think it struggles going second. Yeah, obviously the best decks are going to be the ones that can play going second, as well as doing the Scythe combo going first with the Brave cards. So, I don't know. The Virtual World cards just don't succeed as well going second in a format where Brave, DPE, and Scythe exist. So, I'm hesitant to start picking up this deck and learning it, even though I do like the combos and the plays it does going first. Because, yeah, you can, make Yazi, Chuche the Yazi, summon the Taie. I think that kind of stuff is really interesting, and it introduces some cool lines that, I don't know. I think it's fun. Side deck is pretty standard, except for Mystic Mine. So here's a card that has not been talked about much at all this format. Mystic Mine has virtually disappeared from the meta. And I think that's all because of this card right here. If Dracoback wasn't in everybody's deck because of the Brave cards, I feel like mine would be insanely strong, especially game ones, because nobody is really maining Cosmic. Some people are, yes, but the decks that are topping events are not maining outs to mine other than this Dracoback card. So if you mine them, and then obviously this has Chuche, so it's infinitely less good. But the more standard adventure decks, if you mine them and you can stop them from Dracobacking the mine, you're definitely winning. Unfortunately, Dracoback is a card, so if they're playing to hold it and not use it as the discard and equip to the token and then sink the token away because they're doing combos where they don't leave Griffin, you mine them, you pass turn, they bounce the mine and they kill you. So mine has been seeing less and less play in this format, but he's got it at 3 here. I guess it has been pretty common to ditch the Dracoback. So if you're watching them combo, and in their combo they do that where they discard the equip to equip it, and then for example the combo that I was doing that did that quite a bit. If I needed the rest of the cards in my hand and I couldn't afford to discard them, I would discard the equip off of the Fateful and then equip it, and then my Griffin and my token both got synchroed away. So if I got mined, I was losing game 1. But so I guess if you're watching your opponent do that and you're playing a deck that they're not going to side back row in, it's an interesting win condition because you're letting them combo, you're letting them discard their equip and getting rid of it for the game, and then all of a sudden you're Mystic Mining them. So it's an interesting strategy that has not been common, but that doesn't mean it's not going to exist for the YCS, and I have a feeling that there's going to be the occasional combo player that just puts in Mystic Mine and then steals a game with it. So I think for the most part, if you can, you have to hold the equip, even games 2 and 3, because the card still exists, it's still in the back of people's minds, and it can steal games. The best deck on this 3v3 team is Froggy Striker. Unfortunately, I don't have his side or extra, but I can take a guess at his extra because he's not playing DPE. So I'm pretty sure, I was talking to him a little bit about it beforehand. 3-3-3, 2 Zeke. I don't think he was playing 2 Kaina. He might have been. And he might have been doing the Hulk package. So this is the extra deck that I would do if I was not playing DPE. Hulk Lean Access. So 2 Zeke, 3 Hayate, which I like a lot. like having those resources, I think, is really important. The biggest thing about this striker deck that I'm seeing is that he's not playing multi-role and he's not playing airspace. So he cut down on the sky spells quite a bit. Like, he's only playing 15 spell cards. So Area 0 is not going to hit a lot, so that makes sense to cut. He's not playing DPE, so that's not a pseudo starter on your opponent's turn. DPE pop airspace after you summon it. And roll just isn't amazing right now, with the exception of maybe the mirror match. That's the biggest thing I see about his deck, is that if he's not opening Storm, his deck is not amazing in the mirror. Like, Meister can't activate in the damage step for Ray. Bell can, but Nibiru is not good against Sky Striker. Ogre's subpar against Sky Striker. So in the mirror, I guess he's relying on technical play to outplay his opponent, which, from what I understand, he can pretty much do for the most part. He's a pretty good player. But yeah, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 16 hand traps. 16 of the 22 monsters are hand traps. And then 3 imperms. So sorry, 19 hand traps. And then Blowout Storm's going second, and then also Triple Widow. I might consider swapping a burner for a Shark Cannon because of the Scythe decks. If I was making any changes to this list, I think that's where I'd start. I do like 2 Afterburner quite a bit, but if I was going to play 3 of one of them, I think it'd be Shark Cannon over Burner. Alright, everybody, that's what we've got for this week. A little taste of what the meta has been before we go to YCS Vegas. Check out Unmatched Gaming. I'll put the link to their Facebook page in the description. They're going to have the top 16 deck lists from their case tourney posted on their Facebook either later today or sometime tomorrow, I believe. So we can get an idea of all the different decks that have been played, what decks we're seeing success, the different variations of the Sword Soul decks that topped. I think that's probably the biggest thing missing from this podcast is those Sword Soul deck lists. So I'm excited to see those because it seemed like the Sword Soul deck was the most popular deck in the room other than Prank Kids on Saturday in Philly. I played against 4 Prank Kids and 4 Sword Soul decks in Swiss. And there were 4 Sword Soul that made top cut and 2 pranks. So it sounds like those are going to be the 2 most popular deck choices going forward. Remains to be seen if this Brave pile combo stuff takes off a little bit more. Maybe that's going to be a bit more represented for the YCS. But I think it's going to be an interesting tournament. I wish everybody playing in it the best of luck. I am going to be at a friend's wedding. One of our sponsors, Jose, is getting married in Arizona. So I will be there instead of playing the YCS. But I will be rooting for everybody in spirit. And we will see you guys next week on Midwest Mondays. Thanks for hanging out.